Welcome everybody to another edition of For Owners by Owners. I'm your host William Fairbanks, and I'm joined by our CEO and founder of Shop Controller, Michael Barrett. Mike, how you doing?
Good. Good morning. Thanks, William.
Welcome, and we have a very, very special guest today, Coach Rick White, 180 Bid. Rick, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing today?
You're more than welcome, but very, very special. I'm not
Very
sure I
special
even
guest.
get. I'm not even sure I get special. Maybe we should just say very, very, and then leave it up to their imagination, and they can fill in the blank.
We were thinking about using three varies, actually,
But that's like triple dog dare.
We defaulted to two.
Yeah, you just can't.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's awesome to have you on. And I mean, to kick this off, you just got back from this amazing trip where you're coaching students in another country.
Yes,
you had a translator.
Yeah,
and went all out. So help us understand what that experience was like.
It was pretty wild. We were invited to train in Brazil. And it was really funny that we have a half-day class. I met the owner of this event at Vision. And he says, I want you to teach this class. And I said, okay, I'm happy to. He says, I want you to do it in 1 hour. I went, no. He says 2 hours. I went, no. He goes 3 hours. I went, no. So he said, okay, 4 hours. I said, now we're talking. So we had it set up in 1 hour blocks, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. I got to tell you, it was off the hook good. We had probably about 200, 250 people in the room. Less than 10% spoke English.
Wow.
So they had a little booth over to the side, and I was not the only American trainer. Scott Schotten was there, Wally Meridian, Eric Walker, Brandon Steckler.
Wow.
Was that everybody? I think that's everybody.
Impressive lineup.
It was a really great lineup. And so they did mechanical training, and I did management training.
Right.
And we had a great time, got the audience talking back and forth with us. Had them interpreting what I was saying. It was like at the UN, they had a little headset and the interpreter would interpret what I was saying. And it was kind of funny because I'd say something funny and then go, right, and wait for that little delay and get the chuckle.
Were there any times that you didn't get the chuckle where you did the lean in? And
oh, yeah. But that happens here too. So, my favorite saying on that is, Babe Ruth says you don't hit a home run every time, but you got to keep swinging.
Yeah.
So I just keep going. But it was absolutely off the hook. They were so hungry for information. Like I said, we got invited back for next year. We're starting up a special program for the Brazilian shop owners that we're really excited about. And it's something that was just so cool. It's funny. A lot of places I've gone, English isn't their first language, but they can typically get by.
Yeah.
Right. This was the first country we were in where it was like, if you didn't speak Portuguese, you were out.
Wow.
So, but I've never seen a friendlier group of people that were very, very quick to whip out a phone and get a translator app going.
Yeah. What was like the main nuggets? So after the conference, right? You're, a prominent speaker, authority in this space, you have the, kind of the networking sessions afterwards to have some conversations, or maybe even some comments back on email or whatnot. What were some of the big nuggets that came out of that either, directly from you or maybe even for some of the others? I was like, wow, they really took that one to heart.
I think the biggest part of it is just how little training they have. Now, there's some nuances with any culture that are different. And we're in the process of understanding that. We're meeting with other shop owners down there so that we can better understand the challenges they're running into. But business is business. I was talking to a person starting a bookkeeping service last night. Right. And they were in tears because they're just so scared. And I'm like, it's okay. We're going to be okay. Let's figure out the math. And by the end of it, she was like, man, this is easy. I went, yes, right? That's what we want to see. So, for me, it's just how warm and welcoming they are. That those people are. We have open invitations to every part of Brazil there is.
Yeah.
And the funny part is, you look at the map and Brazil is this big.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because the maps were drawn by people living in the United States, and we wanted to make the United States look bigger, I think. Because Brazil is as big as the United States continentally.
Interesting.
So it's a lot bigger than you think it is. But it was off the hook. It was just so cool to see. I love to travel.
Yeah.
So my next two spots, anybody that's listening, I want to train in the UK. I want to train in New Zealand and Australia. So those are the next areas we're going to shoot for.
I'll take Hawaii, maybe a little Maui, Kauai. You can sign me up for that one, or maybe the tropical places. Hook me up there.
Yeah, Maui, we went to, my wife and I did a cruise around the Hawaiian Islands for our honeymoon. So it's really a nice place. So part of it is I love getting into places I haven't been in before.
Yeah.
We were up at the expo up in AutoWare's expo up in Grand Rapids in February this past year. First time there, had about 200 people in each class. It was a one-day event, and it was just so cool. It's so much fun to be able to see the light kind of come on for somebody.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I take this and I take this and I get it. And it just starts, it's just so much fun. So I really enjoy that part. But we made promises to get better with our Portuguese.
Okay.
Right? I can say bom dia, that's good morning.
All right.
Boa tarde, that's good afternoon. Boa noite, that's good evening or good night. Hola or oi. Let's see, por favor, obrigado. De nada.
Yeah.
So we're getting there. So they promised to get a little better on their English. I promised to get better on my Portuguese. So
perfect. Now, did you change up what you normally? So, I mean, 4 hours is a long time, and I know you can fill it with great information. But let's say you're doing a workshop here in the States versus, what we did down there in Brazil. Did you change up the format at all, or did you go in with the same format?
I changed one thing in the class.
Okay, what did you change?
The word ring.
The word ring, okay.
Ring translated in Brazilian, if they don't do it properly, means asshole.
Oh, okay. So like instead of when the phone rings, you were talking about when the asshole rings.
No, asshole, right?
Okay.
So in that the instance I was using the word ring, I changed the word to circle.
Okay.
That's the only thing I changed.
All right. So what was the first thing that that you coached them on? I mean, obviously you did your intro, you helped them understand who you are and why you should be speaking to them today. But then what did you get into?
No, I didn't do any of that. I basically they brought me in and we started right off. And the class is called Business Boss Bootcamp, and it basically is going from creeper to leader.
Okay.
Right? Most of us start in a shop, and we start where? Out in the base.
Mm-hmm.
And then we progress out of the bay and we go to the front counter for a while. And then, hopefully if we progress and we don't get stuck somewhere, we get to the back office. So the whole premise of that class is, and I hope shop owners understand what I'm talking about here, but you get so excited because you're finally going to be able to work on the business instead of in the business.
Mm-hmm.
So you show up with your cup of coffee or tea and you're sitting at your desk and you turn on the computer and you go, now what? What do I do?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I'm scared now. So what do? We start to watch videos. We watch cat videos on YouTube, or we binge watch something on Netflix. And it's because we
watch a for owners by owners video.
Yeah, that's true. We could do that too, right? But ultimately, there's 9 responsibilities that every shop owner has that they spend very, very little time on when they're working in the business. So what we do in that class is we go through those 9 areas, and then we go through each one at a time, right? So the first one's destination. We start there. Where are you going? Most shop owners, what are you doing? Your only goal is to get to the end of the day or the end of the week without killing somebody. That is not a goal for growth and thriving. That is surviving. But most of us don't set, right? And I'm guilty of it. That's why I say us. I was guilty of it too. I get up in the morning and I'm just there to fix cars.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And as an owner, I have to be more of a visionary and kind of set a destination. Where are we going? And why are we going there? So that was the very first thing we talked about. And then we go through the financials. We went through financials. And then from financials, we went to culture. And then from culture, we went to attraction, retention. And then we were talking about growing awareness of your business, growing your team, and setting the pace. Yeah. Right? The purpose, the passion, the activity, the accomplishment, caring, and the commitment, and the energy and expectations. We have to set that for every one of our for our business, so that that stuff is contagious. People end up. I was talking to somebody recently, and they're like, "Man, I just can't get my staff excited." And I said, "Well, what are you excited about?" He goes, "Man, I'm telling you what, I'm having a problem." Right? We got to remember that whatever energy our team is bringing to the day is a reflection of the energy we bring.
Yeah, that energy is contagious, and I think that just leads into that culture.
Either way, though, it's contagious either way.
Absolutely.
Right? You either feed on or feed off each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Now, for that energy, and then also that talks about, ties into the culture that's happening within the shops. Any different dynamics in Brazil versus the States? I mean, obviously, we've heard, on these calls and in these meetings with different shop owners, a lot of people moving from being that dictator to a leader and having to go through that change internally. And that's similar to that energy, right? You got to understand, like, hey, I got to come in pumped up and excited to make sure my team is pumped up and excited about what we're doing. And really like leading by example. Was that an area that was embraced just like it has been in the States, or just curious, any questions around culture and team building that were different?
So the difference between, I'm going to say this probably the wrong way, but I want a chance to correct it. We go into a class in the States, and I don't want to say this disrespectfully. I love teaching. Okay. But a lot of times we start off with people in a class like this. Right. Whereas in Brazil, they were leaning forward going, okay, tell me, talk to me. Right. So they were coming into the class with none of the skepticism or cynicism that seems to be so prevalent today, both in our culture as a country and the businesses that, each of us works in.
Interesting.
A lot of times I think what happens is, I'll start with a shop owner. And when they come to me, a lot of times they're pretty angry, bitter, frustrated, disillusioned. And I ask them, I said, okay, how long have you had the business? I've had it for 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. Okay, I want you to close your eyes for a second. Take a deep breath. Just clear your mind. I want you to think back to the very first day. I want you to see yourself standing in front of the shop door, and you're about to slide the key into the door for the very first time. What were you focused on? Right? And I invariably get some variation of, I'm going to take over the world.
Yeah.
Right? All they saw was potential. Now we fast forward 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I ask them what they see, and all they see is problems.
Yeah.
But here's the funny part about it. Life is a giant garden, and there's only 2 things that we grow in that garden, and that's potential and problems. Ooh, look at that. It's potential and problems. So when we step back and think about it, when all they saw was potential, there were problems there. They just didn't notice them.
Right.
And here's the funny part. The flip part of it is today, all they see are problems, but there's potential all around them.
Yeah.
Right. It's what we focus on.
Yeah. That mindset is so critical.
Absolutely. And we're too quick to label things. In other words, I had a good day or a bad day, or this is good and this is bad. How do you know?
Yeah.
Right? How do you know? I'll tell you that I've gone through 2 divorces and probably 2 of the most painful points in my life. Right? I had children in both marriages, and it was a challenge, to say at the least, without getting, foul-mouthed. But in retrospect, hindsight, the biggest growth areas, right, in my life. It's where I was able to grow and mature to some level. I got to about 16 and stopped. But, it helped me mature.
Yeah.
So someone said to me, I've been bankrupt. I've lost businesses. I've grown businesses. I've sold businesses. I've been divorced twice. They say to me, Rick, what would you change? Man, what do I change? What do you change? I mean, I got 7 kids. Which kids don't I want?
Yeah.
Right. And, what I went through made me who I am today.
Absolutely. Those are all the building blocks.
Absolutely.
Those experiences help craft who you are today.
Absolutely. So I wouldn't necessarily choose the path I've been on, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So how do you help those shop owners when they come to you and they've changed that mindset from owning the world to now mad and defeated and only see problems? Where do you see that kind of like golden nugget where you can say, okay, because you got to start small, right? You can't change all the problems all at one time. So how do you help them identify the one or the 2 most important things to start focusing on to change that trajectory back to where, they're going back to owning the world?
So I'm gonna be super. I like keeping things simple. I think the very first thing I've got to do as a coach is be a purveyor of hope. Right? As John Maxwell brilliantly said, when there's hope in the future, there's power in the present.
Yeah, that's a great quote.
Right? And when people are staring at the problem all the time, what they do, when we stare at problems, 3 things happen. Right? So number 1, we make them pervasive. Right? So even though my problem is here, I make it pervasive. And what I mean by that is I reached out to a shop owner, and we had talked a little bit at a show, and he said he was interested in coaching. So I reached out to him. I said, hey, man, how's it going? He goes, it sucks. Business sucks. And I said, really? Tell me more. He says, just the whole thing sucks. And I said, well, when we were at the show talking, you told me that you had the best staff you've ever had. Did something change? Nope. Still got the best people I've ever had in my life. Okay. And I said, well, you said you just built a brand new facility. Is there something wrong with the facility? He goes, no, it's amazing. So much better than what we had. And I said, well, then I understand why your business sucks. And he laughed a little bit, right? Broke the ice. And I said, now tell me what's really going on. And he had a card count problem. Right? But that's the first thing we do is we make a problem pervasive. The second thing we do with a problem is we make it permanent. Right? We just have a hard time wrapping our heads around the fact that no matter what we're going through, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, it's a moment. It's never going to stay this way. Yeah. Right? But what do? We go through a bunch of problems. I have some people leave. What do I say to myself? It's always this way. That's a global belief. It's never going to get better because I am now making it permanent.
Yep.
Right? But that's not true. And then the last thing, and probably the most dangerous thing we do with problems, is we make them personal. And what I mean by that is it becomes a part of my identity. Instead of it being a situation out here, it now becomes an identifier in here. I can't keep good help. I'm not a good boss. There's something wrong with me. And none of those things are true. Okay. So the very first thing I've got to be able to do as a coach, if I can help them with anything, because Mike, here's the truth. I could give you every strategy known to man to make your business better. But if you're not up here, right, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. So the first thing I've got to do is paint the picture that you can believe that is better than your present situation. Okay. Then we got to work on your beliefs. You got to believe that what you want is achievable, that someone else has done it, that it is achievable. It's possible, right? You got to believe that you're capable. You got to believe you deserve it. You got to believe that the sacrifices you're going to make are worth it. Because you guys, Mike, you started a company. You went out on a limb and said, I think we can do something here. I did the same thing. But it's a scary ass thing to do. Right? Here, hold on a second. I got to fix this.
That's okay. We love the little pop-ups.
Yeah. The pop-ups get a little weird, right? I can go like this and I get balloons.
Yeah. There you go. What was I doing the other day? I was doing something like this.
Two thumbs up.
Two thumbs up. There you go.
I got fireworks.
Yeah, there we go.
Right?
Yeah.
I go like this, two V's, and I get confetti. Do two thumbs down.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, yeah, there's the technology stuff there. Rick at 180biz.com. I'll show you how to do it. So
there you go. But that mindset, right? I mean, so much what you're talking about goes on up here. And I think for so many people that are wanting to do something for the first time, that's what really trips them up. And
because we think it's the doing, we got to change. Like if something's not going the way I want it to go, what do I say to myself? I got to do something different.
Right.
The reality, though, is I got to go back to the beliefs.
Yeah. So, and I always think about it as like the vision, like go back to like, what is your vision? Mm-hmm. Like, what is that big goal? And maybe even deeper than that, like, what is the why? Why are you doing this?
Your why is fuel.
Yeah.
Because when you set a big goal, two things happen. One right away, second right after. Okay. Yeah. The first thing is, as soon as you set a big goal, you're all excited and everything like that. And then you hit a roadblock. Mm-hmm. Right? You hit a roadblock. And that roadblock's not there to stop you. That roadblock's there to test you. Mm. Okay? Do you really want this? Are you willing, right? Is it worth the sacrifice? Are you willing to pay the price?
Yeah.
Okay? I think that's creation. That's me personally. Okay? There's a really great, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of The Last Lecture. It was a book that was out in the late 2018, 2019, that area. It was actually built around a talk that Randy Pausch, Pausch, gave at Carnegie Mellon. Okay. Randy was a professor at Carnegie Mellon, and the senior class had a tradition of picking their favorite professor to give their last lecture before they graduated.
Interesting.
So they picked Randy to do the last lecture. And he says, it's funny, I can't call it that this year because, politically correct stuff. He said, but it really is my last lecture. I have pancreatic cancer and I'm dying. Wow. But it's called How to Achieve Your Childhood Dreams. The lecture's on YouTube. It's about an hour and 16 minutes long. And it is worth the watch. I watch it probably once a year.
Mm. We'll put it in the comments so people can get after that link for sure.
Have tissues. If you are married or have a significant other, watch it together.
Wow.
It will change your life. Okay.
Yeah.
But he talks about these roadblocks. And he says, you're going to hit a brick wall. Brick wall's not there to stop you. It's there to test you.
Yeah.
And I have found that to be true in every area of my life. Right. So that's the first thing that happens. And the second thing that happens is we have this really gorgeous outcome goal that we want. But then we have task goals that we got to do on a regular basis to get us to that outcome. Right? Too many people focus on the outcome and don't say, okay, what are the steps I need to take?
Yeah.
Right? So we don't hit a goal and then we're upset. But when you can step back and say, okay, these are the steps, that gets boring. Hey, I want to increase my sales. Okay, that means I got to do a DVI on every vehicle. Okay, we get this going. Now it becomes monotonous. It gets boring.
Yeah.
And what happens if we're not careful, if we don't have a why, we stop looking at the destination and we start paying attention to our tasks.
Yeah.
You
Start
got to
looking for shortcuts too.
What's that?
Start looking for shortcuts.
Yeah. Oh, everybody's looking for a shortcut, right? There's a psychological term called the law of least effort. Every one of us, if I told you there's an 8-step sales process, you're thinking, I bet you I can do it in 6. Right? That's just human nature. So you got to have really powerful whys, because those whys are going to help you overcome the brick walls, and they're going to help you stay focused, not on what I'm doing, but why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And you want that why to be 100% pleasure and 100% emotional.
Yeah.
Right. I want to do this so that I have money in the bank. No.
Yeah.
I want to do this so that my kids don't go through what I did as a kid. That is a much more powerful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then I think people got to start thinking about, like, what are the sacrifices that I'm willing to go through to achieve that why?
And the sacrifice is only 3. It's time, money, and relationship.
Yeah.
Right? It's time, money, and relationship. That's why. Have you ever noticed you get a shop that starts up, and I can only speak of shops, but you get a shop a shop owner starts up, and I'm going to speak from a male perspective because I'm male. And you get your wife and she's all excited. She's your biggest cheerleader. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so cool. But the reality is, like having kids, we have no idea what we're getting into.
Right.
Right. If everybody knew what they were going to have to go through to raise a child, there's a really good chance we'd be extinct now. Right. And it's the same thing with business. If people understood what it was going to take to be successful in business, we would not have any businesses.
Yeah.
So as that time goes on, your wife, who is your biggest cheerleader, because of the time commitment it takes to start a business and get it off the ground, they start to see the shop as competition.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important when you're talking about these things to make sure, even if your significant other isn't actively involved every day, it affects them every day. Make sure on the big stuff, you guys are all going on the same direction.
Yeah. Make sure that your significant other or your business partner are all on the same page of what that why is and kind of what your North Star is. Because I think in any relationship and any business venture that I've been in, as long as that North Star is clear, like, hey, what are we working towards? What is our mission? What is this overall objective? What are we truly trying to achieve? And if we're all on that same page, then some of these other roadblocks, right, these problems that we run into, these challenges, they become, easier to get around and easier to work through.
Absolutely. Because for me, I truly believe life is about relationship and communication.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. And the better we can get at those two things, the less roadblocks there are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then any relationship you have in life, whether it's significant other, business partner, employee to boss, whatever it is, it's a human mindset that we have to change. Whatever obstacles or roadblocks come your way, it's not you versus them versus the problem. It's you and them versus the obstacle or the roadblock. And I think a lot of people get lost in that You might even have differences of opinions on how to accomplish the end goal, but it's still not you versus them. It's you and them versus whatever it is you're trying to get through. And I think that is another a mental block that people have to come over when it comes to conflict or roadblocks.
Absolutely. It happens all the time. We project the challenge onto people, right? And make them the problem instead of recognizing that there's a difference there. So when you're not getting the production you want out of your technicians, you think, I have a tech that's not billing hours. And I'm going to say that you have an environment that's not billing hours. And if you're smart, and I know you are, if you're smart, what you're going to do is separate the issue from the person, right? And you're going to sit down and talk to a tech, and it might sound something like, hey, Bill, listen, you're a great tech. You should be billing 10, 12 hours a day here. You're that good. But you know something? You're only getting 4.5 a day right now. And I want you to understand clearly, I don't think this is a you issue. I think this is an us issue. And here are the 4 most powerful tools you'll ever use with teams. I need your help.
Yeah.
Right? I know we have a productivity bucket with a bunch of holes in it that I can't see. But I bet you together with your help, we can find them and patch them.
Yeah. I love what you did there. I mean, the script was, hey, this is what I believe you can do, right? Kind of led with some love. You're a talented tech. Here's some hours where I think we can get to together, and gave specifics. And
Absolutely.
then you gave the specifics, of what the reporting says, right? So it's not a, hey, I think, or this is kind of where we're trending. Like, this is specifically what the data shows.
Right.
And then, hey, how do we improve together? Right. And what are your thoughts? Versus you coming in there as a dictator, or just coming out and being like, hey, you're not hitting the numbers. You're only at 4.5. We need to get you to 10, get there by the end of the week, or I'm going to have to let you go.
Yeah. And I truly believe that our team members truly do want to do a good job. But due to a lack of communication and clarity, you end up not getting what you want out of people. Another psychological term is called the illusion of transparency. And if you have a significant other, you know what I mean. That's when she comes up to you and says, you should know what I'm thinking. You should know what needs to be done. Right? That's the illusion of transparency. We do it with our team. I'll talk to a shop owner that's been in business for 15 years, not happy with this team. First thing I say to them, do they know what your expectations are? Do you have goals set for them? Do you have minimum levels set for them? Nope. So how can they know what to achieve if you haven't shared that with them? Right? So the first thing you do is you share a goal number and a minimum level. Hey, this is what we're shooting for. Got to be above this. Okay. Guess what happens to the numbers? They jump up. Now what do? Now we tell them, okay, I'm watching these every day. Guess what happens? They jump up again.
Yeah.
Right? Now we start working together and they can jump again. So it's
what is that first metric that you recommend they start with? So maybe a shop that's not, tracking KPIs today, they don't really have some metrics. They probably understand some top level numbers, but what's the first set? And maybe it's not just one. Is it 3? Is it 5? What are the first metrics that should be top of mind that you really focus on those shop owners paying attention to?
So there's one number that is the most important number in the entire shop.
Okay.
And I'm on kind of a crusade to kill ARO.
Okay.
Because for me, ARO is a useless number.
Yeah. I mean, that average repair order.
What does it tell me?
Yeah.
Right. I could have, maybe I did a diesel engine this month. So I have one ticket that's $15,000, $20,000. Mm-hmm. And then I have 200 other tickets that suck.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm looking at ARO, guess what that looks like?
Yeah, they all blend out.
Right? So for me, ARO is a useless number, and I know I'm going to get some hate mail on that one.
Oh yeah, man, that's a big number in this industry, man. That's a
I
big
know,
metric.
That's all right. I got big shoulders. I can handle it. You got to have some haters. You know what I'm saying? So
If you don't, you're doing something wrong.
that's right. You're not standing out. You want to be outstanding, you got to stand out to be outstanding. So for me, the biggest number, the most important number in the shop is build hours. Total build hours every day. And the
Okay.
reason for that is because nothing happens in a shop until you bill an hour of labor. You don't sell parts, you don't do anything. So what I teach shop owners to do right away is to look at what your capacity is. Okay. What is my capacity for build hours per day? I'm going to do it as a goal and as a minimum. And I want to be above the minimum and, 60, 70%, pretty damn close to the goal. So by doing it that way, now we can start to look at it, right? So if I have three technicians, they're good techs. Okay. They can do pretty much anything on the car. My goal is going to be 36 hours a day. My minimum would be 24 on an 8-hour day.
Okay. And those are billable hours, right?
Billable.
We're talking about billable hours.
Okay. So that's 24 to 36 hours a day. When I say that to most shop owners, if they're sitting down, I can actually feel them sucking up some of the cushion out of the chair, right?
Because they mean it is like, no way.
It's like, yeah, are you nuts? Yeah. I can't tell you. If I could get paid on how many times I got asked if I was on drugs, it's pretty amazing. And then I should get paid again when they apologize when they start hitting those things, right?
I'm curious because my mind immediately is going to, well, you didn't ask how many bays they had. You just asked how many technicians they had.
Yeah, because it's technician based, not bay based.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And one of the things we do is we get sloppy with facility utilization.
Yeah.
Right. Let's say I'm getting, I have a tech in one bay and he's producing $40,000 a month in sales.
Okay.
So I said, you know something? I think he can do better. I know there's more there in the tank. I'm going to give him a second bay.
Right.
So now I give him a second bay and he goes up to 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, damn, that's pretty good. 50K out of one tech. That is decent. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But now look at it from a facility utilization perspective. You got one bay generating 40,000. I gave him two bays and now I got $25,000 per bay.
Yep.
I would actually be better off to keep him at 40 here, hire another tech and get 40 out of this bay. Now, instead of 50, I have 80.
Right.
So we've got to be aware of facility utilization. So for me, it doesn't matter about the bays because I could have 15 bays, but if I only got work for 3, that's all that counts.
Yep. That makes sense.
That makes sense.
So yeah, perfect.
So the other thing is when I hire a tech, my minimum, if I'm buying 8 hours a day, I've got to bill 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's this calculation called cost per build hour. It really makes a big difference. We keep looking at the numbers based on what we're paying them for being there. Right. And there's a big shift in the industry where people are paying hourly, which is not the right way to go, in my opinion. Nor do I espouse flat rate. So I want to be clear on that. But if I'm paying a guy $30 an hour for 8 hours and he bills 4, then he's costing me $60 per build hour.
Yeah.
Right? Now I've got a guy, let's say, just real quick, if I've got a guy that I'm paying $75 an hour to, and we freak out because we're like, holy crap, I can't pay that much. But if we step back and he's billing 80 hours a week, his cost per build hour is $37.50.
Mm-hmm.
So which one is more expensive? Right?
Makes sense.
So it's being able to step back, but you want to have these goals and minimum levels. And then once you have that number, you go, okay, I've got this. Now am I hitting it? right? My factory is capable of producing 36 widgets a day with a minimum of 24. As a factory owner, I want to make sure I'm getting all the widgets I can.
Yep.
Right? I don't care if you do it at 1 hour a ticket or if you do it at 5 hours a ticket. It doesn't matter to me as long as I get my 24 to 36 hours. Now, the reality is if I can get it so that we're billing more per car, that makes life a lot easier. Right? I was at one point, I had 4 technicians. We were billing 28 hours a day at an hour a ticket. You want to talk about a shit show? Sorry.
Yeah.
I was the advisor writing 28 tickets a day. Okay. And I was like, we can't keep doing this. Let me rephrase. I can't keep doing this. So we instituted an inspection program. We slowed it down and we got it to 3 hours a ticket. And now it's like, okay, now we're doing 9 to 12 cars a day. This is starting to make sense.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when it really started to help out for me personally. But it's understanding the math. So the very first thing you got to look at is build hours.
How about the labor cost, like that you're charging your customers? Does that come into play as the kind of the in parallel second most thing you're looking at? Because I mean, now you're at least doing enough billable hours. But if you're, the market's at 150 and you're charging 75 because you just feel like that's what you should be doing. Yep.
So once we understand and we build the business expectations around the build hours, we look at, so I have a thing real quick. I teach clients, look at sales daily, look at gross profit weekly, look at expenses and net profit monthly. Really simple, right? And that assumes you're paying weekly. If you're only paying bi-weekly, you can only look at gross profit twice a month. Okay. But as we look at sales, there's actually 5 numbers we look at every day. Okay. We look at total billed hours. We look at invoice count, hours per RO, parts and tire GP, effective labor rate. If you're hitting those 5 numbers and you have a proper profit model set up, you're going to be hitting a home run.
There you go.
Okay. And then we have other numbers we look at weekly and monthly. But daily, those are the 5 we watch and we share with the advisors.
Okay. Just curious. I mean, I'm in a couple different coaching programs myself. And one of the things that always provided a lot of value to me is to see my numbers up against other folks. So, just like in sports, right? Whether it's your batting average in baseball or in football, maybe it's your win-loss record, or there's always metrics on helping you understand if you're winning or losing. Do you maybe not associate the names or the shops, but do you kind of share and help people understand, like, hey, where am I at within the different folks that you're coaching? Am I at the bottom of the pile, the middle, the top?
They can see everybody's numbers, and one of the things I really push is, I'm going to step back for a sec. Have you guys ever had a hard time accepting a compliment?
Oh, no.
Yeah. No, of course. Dripping with sarcasm. Here's why. Because people see what you do. They see your heart. They see your intentions. And they think you're amazing. When we look out, though, all we see is our brokenness. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this. I suck at this. So we always feel like when we're looking out at the world through our eyes, we feel like this failure, this pile of crap. And now someone comes in and says something nice. And inherently what happens is on the inside, you're going, yeah, if you knew who I was, if you knew who I really was, you wouldn't say that.
Yeah. Or if you saw these other problems, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So the first thing we got to do is recognize that when you look at somebody else's numbers and compare yours to theirs, most people look at where they're deficient. Right? So when I first joined a bottom line group, there was a guy doing $2.5 million a year. And I'm like, dude, I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
right? We were doing
That
$1 million.
number. Yeah.
And he came to me, he goes, I am so glad you saw me because I need to talk to you. And I said, why? He says, because you're averaging 4 hours of labor per ticket, and I need to know what you're doing.
Mhm.
And what I want to show everybody is that you have something that somebody can learn from, right? We all have something, like you got amazing parts gross profit, or how did you do with that tire GP, or your hours per hour effective labor rate? How are you doing that? How do you get those invoices through? How do you get your close rate so high? There's so many different things we can look at that is really pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we can learn from everybody.
Yeah. That power of networking is just, it
It's
can be
so
contagious
It
too.
is.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. We have twice a year, we have an event where we get all our members together. And ours is next week. We're going to St. Louis.
Nice.
And we do training and shop visits and stuff like that. But I swear some of the most valuable time is in the evening when everybody's hanging out at the bar. And they're
Absolutely.
just talking to each other and creating connections and relationships. Like, it was really cool yesterday. Is it here? Where did she say it? No. Yesterday we had one of our clients, female shop owner. Her husband started the shop and died suddenly. She's taken the shop over, and she said she did an interview on her story. And one of the things she said that was most impactful was joining a coaching group
Yeah.
because of the networking and relationships and friendships, lifelong friendships that she's developed through it.
Yeah.
My wife and I, when we started the groups, we never in a million years thought they would become what they are.
Mm.
And that's just, I just step back and look at the community that we've developed or nurtured. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, because it's tough. It's tough being an owner. I mean, there's not a lot of people in your circle that are owners of businesses. And so when you get to be around other owners of businesses, then, you get some of that therapy, you get some of that new energy. I mean, all kinds of things happen from being around people that are, like-minded and
Yeah.
are working on something really tough.
And it's cool. It's tough, but I don't like saying problems. I don't like saying obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
I like talking about challenges and opportunity.
Opportunities, yeah.
Right? Because every problem is an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, if you think about it, we can't have a customer until we solve their problem.
Right.
Right? That's exactly what we do, is we find somebody that has a problem that we can fix, and we go, hey, we can fix that. That's marketing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So the other thing that is very, very cool about all of this is, number one, they get to step back out of the shop. And it's almost like being in the shower. I don't know if you guys, you're ever in the shower, and some of your best ideas come. Mine are when I walk the dogs. I walk the dogs in the morning, and I do this thing every Monday morning at 9:10 Eastern on our Facebook page called Just One Thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 minutes long, and it's just one thought for the week. So I had a really cool idea for one of those sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but I'll say, oh, that's so cool. I'll remember it. I'll do it later. And then an hour later, I'm thinking, man, that was a good idea. What was it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So literally, I'm walking the dogs, right? I got a yard, and we live out in the country, so they just run around. They run around, and I pick up the stuff. So I was actually typing in my phone the idea with my little notes to it. So now I've got it captured.
Yeah.
Right. So we do that. And that's what I find when they're at these events. It allows them to pull back and all of a sudden get more creative, more objective. They're not in the weeds, and it gives them an opportunity. Instead of fighting the battle here, they're up here this weekend.
Yeah.
Right. And they're able to see more of the business. It's so awesome. And the second thing is all the ideas that they get.
Yeah.
Right. They walk through another shop and they see one thing, and it just triggers something in them that is so cool. And so I look forward to these things every time we do them. They're a lot of work, but I'll tell you what, they're
really,
worth it.
very rewarding. I always call that the flow state. Like when
Yes.
you can get into that flow state.
Yes,
Mm.
yes.
It's like, where the ideas come to you. But it is extremely important to always have a phone or some kind of notepad available when you're doing some of those nature walks. I get a lot of it sitting on a plane too. You're just kind of in there, or listening
Yeah.
to some music, some of those different opportunities for some flow state.
Yeah, I'm to the point now where if I go on a plane, I do not buy the internet.
Yeah.
Because it's 5 hours. Like I was going to Seattle to do some training. It was funny. We got back from Brazil on the 17th, actually on the 18th in the morning. And we got in at 6:30 in the morning. I drove 2 hours home, dropped my wife off, and made it in by 10 a.m. to start coaching, and worked Tuesday and Wednesday. And then I left the house at 4:00 Thursday morning to fly to Seattle and teach out there that weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of cool.
Avoid that, work on the business. Hey, one last thing that I wanted to ask you about, Rick, is kind of a change that we're seeing in the industry. And I think it's perspective that people are bringing to their business as well, is having their shop creating more of a hospitality approach to business. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious if that's one of the pillars that you talk to shop owners about, and how much time do you spend on the actual hospitality and that customer-centric approach to business?
Today, we are in the experience economy, right? When I had the shop, 1990, in the 90s, I think 95 is when I bought my second shop. Fixing it right the first time was a differentiator, right? Today, it's an expectation.
Yeah.
Right.
Based on the increased knowledge that's out there at our fingertips and everything like that, 7 out of 10 shops today can fix a problem the first time. Back when I was in business, it was 1 or 2, right? So that's not a differentiator anymore. It's an expectation, right? You tell someone, I'm going to fix it right the first time. Clients thinking, yeah, the check will cash. It's an expectation. So today, it's all about either making it easier or making them, feel better, right? It's connecting with them at a deeper level. And most of the biggest mistake I see owners make all the time is they're focused on getting more cars. When you have that mentality, you're thinking money. I need more cars. So you end up with a transactional mindset, even if you're not aware of it. Yeah. When you start thinking I need more customers, that's a shift. Because now I'm thinking I need to work with more people, and I want to develop relationships with these people. Right? I used to tell, when someone started working with me, I would tell them, listen, my goal is not to fix your car today. And they kind of look at me funny. Are you on drugs? No, but I'm glad you asked. Thank you. My goal is to become your car guy. In fact, I don't want to become your car guy. I want to become your kid's car guy and their kid's car guy.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, it's all about relationship. So it's about connection and making it easier. That is what we've really got to focus on. That's going to differentiate us. How can I make it easier for a client? How can I make it friendlier for a client? How can I show more caring? That's where the differentiation is.
We live in the experience world where everybody will judge you based on their experience that they had at your business or with your employees. Correct.
Yeah. And they don't judge you against other auto shops.
Right.
They judge you against Apple.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Amazon. Yes.
Yeah.
And they're also not just judging you with how did you do to their car, right? Because Rick, your expectation is like, hey, if I take my car to you, you're going to fix it. But what was that entire experience like? What was it like when I called your shop? What was it like when I, drove into the shop for the inspection? What did that paperwork look like? What did that estimate look like? How was it explained? Was there videos? Was there pictures? How long did you have my car? How often did you communicate with me? Exactly. It's that entire experience, because to your point, they're maybe only getting their car worked on a couple times a year, but how many other experiences? How many times are they going out dining? How many times are they, doing other things that they expect that experience to be similar or just as good?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the reality is you focus on fixing the car, you'll get a satisfied customer. But satisfied, what's one level below satisfied?
Dissatisfied.
Dissatisfied. So if we understand that, our goal should never be a satisfied customer, because that is the lowest acceptable outcome in that interaction.
Right.
Right.
That is the minimum. That is the minimal expectation. Yep. And
So
then Mike, you're talking about, that experience, and I think that one of the biggest shifts in the industry, and Rick, maybe you agree or disagree, I see, is it's no longer about just that experience while I'm there. It's about the experience and the relationship that we have in between my visits to your car, right? It's about that follow up, and how are you communicating with me between my car breaking down or my car needing service. That is another big step with the generations that are coming up, is they want somebody to communicate with them in between, right? Like the Amazons and the Apples, you're hearing from them all the time to keep you as a happy customer, to keep you coming back.
But it's not the communication, it's the connection. Right? I can communicate all the time. I get junk mail all the time. I need connection.
I like it.
Right? And that's where it is, because I say this, I'll be in a class, a sales class, and I'll say to them, I say a couple of things kind of blows their mind. First thing I'll say to them is, do you want a satisfied or loyal customer? And they'll say they're the same thing. I said, okay, well, let me ask you this. Do you want a satisfied spouse or a loyal spouse? Now, all of a sudden, the light bulb goes on and goes, ooh, I get it, right?
Yeah.
The second thing I'll do is I'll ask a room full of advisors, how many of you made a sale last week? How many hands do you think go up?
Hopefully all of them. Yeah.
So I'll look at them and I'll say, okay, so what would you think if I told you you didn't make a sale last week? What if I told you you've actually never made a sale? Right? How many of you are thinking I shouldn't be in this class? And they all raise their hands. I said, well, hear me out. Whose decision is it?
It's the customer's decision.
So they're making a buying decision, and we are there to influence that buying decision. We don't make a sale. We influence a buying decision.
Man, I love it, Rick. Let's end it on that. That was cool. Hold on one second.